I am this way because of this past experience. So then they go to the psychic, and the psychic says you were burned at the stake in Carcassonne in the 1500s, you're a charismatic Christian, the memory's burned in your soul. Now that you know that you were a charismatic Christian from the 1500s, a Cathar, a Templar, does it heal your anxiety? No. So then you go to the astrologer, and she says, you know, Mercury's in retrograde, don't leave the house for 6 months. It's the reason the way you are the way you are. And so they develop beliefs that are within their emotional acceptance. And so then they build more beliefs within those emotions, which means I still don't want to change. The insight doesn't change anything, because people will only accept, believe, and surrender to beliefs or thoughts that are equal to their emotional state, and they'll program their autonomic nervous system into that destiny. So then you get a diagnosis from a doctor, it creates the emotion of fear or desperation. You'll only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to those emotional states. Until you change your emotional state, is it possible for you then to begin to accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to a new emotional state and bring up the emotion ahead of the experience? Now we're talking about going against conditioning. Because I can't control all the events that happen in my life, but I can certainly make choices that are going to bring me closer to those experiences. Now I also know from experience that when I'm living by the hormones of stress and I'm living in survival, that you and I and everybody else is always going to try to control the outcome, to try to force the outcome, to try to get in the way, try to analyze when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. People start to really realize that they can change the neurocircuitry in their brain by thought alone. Send new emotional signals that begin to select and upregulate new genes and downregulate other genes. And it may take knocking on that door for extended periods of time till finally the gene is programmed. Because it took them 10 years to program the gene for the disease, it may take them a few years to reprogram the gene. Now we're talking about pragmatist. We're talking about someone who's applying some principles. And so then when that occurs, and the energy that was sitting in these hormonal centers of survival, anger and fear and guilt and shame, the energy kind of moves up a little bit. We've measured this. Heart starts to open, gets more coherent. The field around the body begins to grow. We've measured that. The person feels more like energy, less like matter. They feel like more like wave, less like particle. They're not afraid of the unknown. They're craving and they're trusting in the unknown. And that kind of expanded energy is now they're no longer enslaved emotionally to the past. They're no longer an identity that's connected to a disease. They're no longer a body who's addicted to an emotion. They're no longer trying to forecast the future based on the past. They're no longer a man, they're no longer a woman, they're no longer a nurse, they're no longer black, they're no longer white, they're no longer anything. They are completely poised in the present moment. And that present moment produces a liberation of energy because the body is no longer held to the chains of the past.